Hi and welcome back to module number 3, which is on securing access, and this is a knowledge check where we are covering the justification for right answers and why we are not selecting the other answers. So first of all, question number 1 says that which statement reflects design principle of the security pillar of a well architected framework? So the answer for that one is applying security at all layers of architecture. The reason is that this is the key AWS principle which emphasizes on defense in depth by implementing protection across all system layers. Now let's try to see the other options, that why we didn't select the first one, which is ensures that staff are actively monitoring potential risks manually. The problem in this one is that AWS recommends automated monitoring tools, not manual processes. And if we'll see the third option, which talks about decentralized privilege management, we didn't select this option because AWS advises centralizing access management for consistent control. And if we look at the last option, which says that do not deploy a solution to production until you're certain that no security risks exist. This answer is also wrong because risk cannot be completely eliminated. AWS promotes continuous monitoring and improvement. Now we have question number 2. It says that which statement about responsibility are accurate based on AWS shared responsibility. So the first answer, which is AWS is responsible for the physical security of data centers, is correct because AWS secures the underlying infrastructure and facilities. The second answer, which is correct over here, is customers are responsible for managing their user data because customers secure and control their own data configurations and permissions. Now let's see that why other answers are wrong. So first of all, the first answer which is wrong is that AWS is responsible for the configuration of security groups. That's wrong because security group configurations is a customer responsibility. After that, if we look at the second option, which says that the customers are responsible for the installation, maintenance, and decommissioning of the hardware that they use in the AWS data centers. That is wrong as well because AWS owns and maintains the hardware and infrastructure. And if we look at the last option, which is AWS is responsible for the host-based firewall configuration, customers manage firewalls on their own instances. That's why this answer is wrong as well. Now we have question number 3, which states that which options are characteristics of the principle of least privilege. So the first answer, which is correct, is grant access only as needed because it ensures that the users and resources have only necessary permissions. The second answer, which is correct, is craft security policies that limit access to specific tasks because it restricts access based on the defined job functions and tasks. Now let's see and examine that why other options are wrong. First of all, monitor actions and changes is wrong because monitoring is part of auditing and is not an access control. And if you look at the always use groups, this is wrong because groups are optional. At least privilege focuses on minimizing the permissions. And then we have use encryption. Now use encryption is wrong because encryption secures data, not permissions on access. Then we have question number 4, which statement about AWS identity and access management is true? So the true statement is that with IAM, you can grant principals granular access to resources because IAM allows fine-grained permissions management for the users, roles, and services. Now, if we look at the wrong answers, the first option, which is here, says that IAM provides an extra layer of security by offering anomaly detection on resources. This is wrong because the function belongs to the services like Amazon Guard Duty. The second option, which is over here, says that with IAM you can manage encryption for items that requires encryption at rest. That's wrong because encryption management is handled by AWS KMS, not IAM. And then finally, we have a last option over here which says that IAM provides audit trail of who performed an action, what actions they performed, and when they performed it. This is wrong also because audit trails are provided by AWS Cloud Trails. Now, question number 5, which statement describes AWS identity and access management role? Select two options. So the first right option is that they provide temporary security credentials because IAM roles issue temporary access tokens instead of long-term credentials. The second right answer is that individuals, applications, and services can assume roles. This is because roles can be assumed dynamically and by the users of AWS services. Now, if we'll see the answers which are wrong, first of all, they provide permanent security credentials. That's wrong because permanent credentials belong to IAM users, not roles. Second option is they can only be used by accounts that are associated to the persons who create the roles. That's wrong also because roles cannot be used across accounts and are not limited to the creator. The third option is that they are uniquely associated to an individual. That's wrong as well because roles are not tied to one person. They can be assumed by multiple entities. Question number 6 says that which statement reflects a best practice for the root user of an AWS account? So the right answer is create an admin user and perform most admin tasks with this user instead of the root user. The reason for that is root user should be reserved for essential account level actions only. Now let's see the wrong answers. The first wrong answer is to avoid getting locked out of the account, do not enable multi-factor authentication on the root account. This is wrong because MFA should always be enabled to secure the root user. The second wrong answer is that remove unneeded permissions from the root user account. This is not the right answer because root permissions cannot be modified or restricted. And then we have a third answer over here which says that create two root users with separate credentials and distribute them to different individuals. Only one root user exists as per AWS account. Question number 7 is how does AWS IAM evaluate a policy? So the right answer is that it checks for the explicit deny statement before it checks for the explicit allow statements. The reason is that IAM prioritizes deny statements. If any policy explicitly denies access, the request is denied. Now let's see other options. So the first option was that if the policy doesn't have an explicit deny statement or explicit allow statement, users have access by default. This is wrong because default access is denied until explicitly allowed. Second option is that it checks for explicit allow statement before it checks for explicitly deny statement. It's wrong because deny statements are evaluated first. Then we have last option which says then an explicit deny does not override an explicit allow statement. This is wrong because deny always overrides allow. Then we have question number 8. Which statement about AWS IAM policies is accurate? So the only right answer is identity-based policies are attached to user groups or roles. The reason is that these policies define what an IAM identity can do. Now let's see the wrong answers. So the first wrong answer is that the resource-based policies allow access by default. This is wrong because default state is deny. Access must be explicitly granted. Then the second answer is that resource-based policies are attached to a user group or role. This is wrong as well because resources-based policies are attached to AWS resources, not identities. Then if we look at the third answer, which is identity-based policies can only be attached to a single entity. This is wrong also because the same policy can be attached to multiple entities. In question number 9, it says that which identity and access management policy element includes information about whether to allow or deny a request. So it is effect. The effect element determines if access is allowed or denied for the specific action. Wrong answers are condition. Condition is not the right answer because it defines when policy applies, not whether it allows or denies. And if we'll talk about action, action is not the right answer because it specifies which operations the policy applies to. And principal is also not the right answer because it identifies the entity, user, role, or account the policy refers to. And then we have question number 10, which says that which option accurately describes the statement element in an AWS IAM policy. So the right answer is the statement element contains other elements that together defines what is allowed or denied. The reason is that the statement block is the core path of any policy and includes effect, action, resource, and condition. Now, the first statement is wrong because the statement element is an optional part of an IAM policy. The statement element is mandatory in every policy, so this cannot be the right option. Then we have the elements. The statement element does not apply to identity-based policies. It's wrong because statements apply to both identity-based and resource-based policies. And a policy can only have one statement element. This is wrong also because a policy can include multiple elements blocking or defining different permissions. So that was our knowledge check on module number 3, which is on securing access.